Hey guys, hello and welcome to Total Health with Dr. Nick. I'm Dr. Nick Sedano and thank you for joining me on today's video. Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite foods, and that is kimchi. Kimchi is one of the true superfoods because it has so many different health benefits and it's so versatile. Originally it's from Korea, and in Koreans they typically do it a little bit differently. It's a lot spicier. I don't typically make it this spicy, although you could, but it's typically put in pots and they leave it out in the yard and they bury it. And so we're not going to do it that way, but I'm going to show you how I do it. But like I said, the benefits of kimchi are enormous. It's got amazing ability to help you with gut health. You know, guys, one of the things I talk about so much is how important the gut is for both brain health, but also to immune function. So this is fantastic because of the probiotics that are in it. And we know that's important because probiotics, you know, the bacteria in our body, there's 10 times more bacteria cells in our body than our own human body cells. So that's a tremendous amount. And it's very important because it helps us to actually be able to create vitamins and enzymes. So bacteria are super important when it comes to our processing in our body and our ability once again to create these enzymes and protein molecules. So once again, fantastic probiotics, but it also has something called prebiotics. Now that's something maybe new to you. A prebiotic is basically what the bacteria eat. So that is things like the cabbage, okay? So high in fiber, but that is the prebiotic or the food for the bacteria. Also too, guys, incredible cancer fighting properties. I can't speak about it enough. Anytime you start to use cruciferous vegetables, which is your broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, things like that, incredible anti-cancer properties. So I use those a lot in my foods. Also too, wonderful for antioxidants, vitamins. One of the great things about how kimchi works is actually the bacteria starts to break the food down. And when it breaks it down, it pre-digests it for us, which makes it easier, but also too, it releases a lot more vitamins. So super good for that. Now, a lot of people say to me, what do you do with it? How do you eat it? Well, I like to eat it right out of the jar. My kids don't like it so much because when I come home, I might open it up and they think it kind of smells a little bit. But I like it when I come home, and many times I'm looking for something, you just want to kind of take that edge off, and I reach for it and I just start to eat some of that, and it just gets me kind of relaxed so I can start making dinner and not feel like I have to grab whatever's in the pantry. But you could use it as a side salad. My wife likes to put it on steak. If she makes a steak, she kind of puts it on top. So lots of different ways and lots of versatility to it. Do it any way you like it, but I think you're going to enjoy it. Anytime you can start to incorporate fermented or pickled vegetables in your food, it's always a good thing. So I'm going to start off. What I like to use is this type of blade here. And this type of blade is in a KitchenAid, but it's also got the blade to make it more of a coleslaw kind of texture. It's also got the kind with the holes punched out, which I'll use then for some of the other vegetables that I like a little smaller. Typically in Korean kimchi, they like to make it chunky, really big and chunky. I don't like it so much that way. I like it a little bit more of like a coleslaw. So, but use it any way you like. So what I've done is I've taken some heads of cabbage here, and I've got 3 heads. 1 is red, 2 are white. And what I've done is I've peeled out the outer layer off, and I'm going to use that, and I've kind of separated it out right over here. I use that for packing the top of it. So later on we're going to use that, so save it. And what I did is I went ahead and cut some of this up into pieces that will fit into the food processor. So once these go into the food processor, I'm going to then put it in this bowl over here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with that. So I'm going to turn this on. Hopefully it's not too loud for you. All right, load some of these in. That one's a little big. And this fills up really fast, so you're going to be emptying this very quickly. Sometimes people actually have a different type of food processor where it spits it out into a bowl. That's a great way to do it. It goes a lot faster than this way, but still, you use whatever you have. And if you don't have a food processor, you can also just chop it up, whatever you like to do. And like I said, in Korean cooking, they typically like it very large, very chunky. So you don't need a food processor to do this. So as you can see, guys, what this is doing is it's turning into like a coleslaw. See like that? So I'll take this out, and I'm going to just dump this right into the bowl that I'm going to be mixing it. And like I said, it's just a coleslaw kind of consistency. And I'm going to get those going now. Okay, so as you can see, what I've done is I've taken all the cabbage and I've got that shredded up. And it makes a lot of cabbage, so you might want to reduce the recipe. Like I said, I use 3 heads of cabbage. If you want to use less, you can do that. I just like to make a lot of it so that way I don't have to keep making it over and over again. So what I've done now is I've also changed out the blade. So this blade, as you can see, has got larger holes in it because when I shred up the smaller vegetables, I really don't want them to get all mushy. I want them to have a little bit of size left. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put in the remainder of the vegetables that I like, which is radishes, love radishes, fresh garlic, carrots. So I'll put in about 6 carrots, and you guys can make the recipe any way you like. You might want more cabbage, less cabbage, more carrots, whatever you choose to do. You might want to use bok choy, whatever vegetables you like that are going to really basically, that are a little firmer, that are going to hold their texture. You obviously don't want to put things like cucumber in here or squash because it's just going to turn to mush. You don't want that. You want the firmer type vegetables. So what I'll do now is I'll put these in here. So once again, guys, we'll get this started up. Hopefully it's not too loud for you. Be careful these don't jump out because sometimes they can do that. So these are just basically shredding up. So I'm going to go through these, get all these done, and get all the carrots done. And we can put these in multiple at a time, get it done a lot faster. All right, almost done with this. Let's just see it fly out a little bit. All right, turn this off. All right, so you'll notice with this type of blade, it's going to actually leave it a little bit shredded. So you see these are a little bit smaller, but yet they're still big enough that they're not going to actually turn to mush once they're starting to break down because of the bacteria. So all of that goes in there. So the next step is what we need to do is make the brine. So I will show you that in just a moment. All right, so as you can see, we've got quite a few ingredients in here and it is literally overflowing. So guys, you can make the recipe as big or as small as you like. I like to make it big, like I said, and have plenty of kimchi to go for a while. So now what I'm going to do is make a brine. And the brine is actually the liquid that goes in with it that gives it its juiciness or gives it the wetness. So you can actually have it any way you like it. If you like it more dry or more on the wet side, add more or less water. And so a lot of times people will actually make the brine by taking some of the contents that they just shredded and putting it in here with the water. I don't prefer to do it that way because I don't want to waste that in the brine. I'd rather have it in the actual kimchi. So what I'm going to do instead is just take some apples. So I've got some Granny Smiths here, but you can use any kind of apples you want. And all we're going to do is blend it up. And once we have this blended, we're then just going to add it right to all the other ingredients. So I want to put this on high. And you can use any kind of blender you want. I've got a Vitamix here, which is very, very powerful, but any kind of blender will do. Mix smaller batches and then just add to it. Okay, so as you can see, the brine is done now and it's all evenly blended. In fact, it really just looks like apple juice. So what I'm going to do at this point is add this directly to the cabbage mixture. But one thing I want to add, or actually 2 things I want to add also, are this culture starter. And I get this from a company called Body Ecology. It's fantastic. In fact, they've got a lot of great recipes on this website. I highly recommend it. They are the leaders in this type of fermented vegetables. They've just been doing it for many, many years. But anyway, the culture starter really is the bacteria that you're going to add to this. And then I also add something called EcoBloom. And EcoBloom is food for the bacteria. So it gives them that jump start. So I'm going to be adding this. So I'm going to add a scoop of this to it. And you can add this directly to the brine. Sometimes I like to add it just directly to the actual mixture here. Add a little bit. Because if you don't use all the brine, you don't want to waste the bacteria in here. You don't want to waste the starter. So I typically add it directly to my cabbage. You just want to make sure, of course, that you blend it thoroughly throughout so that way you don't have areas where there's not much of the bacteria. So we pour this all over here. Also, too, you want to add salt. So salt to taste. I like to add 3 to 4 tablespoons, or teaspoons I mean, but you can do whatever you want. It's always to taste. I find that if there's not enough salt in it, it doesn't give it that vinegary taste that I really like. So I'm always looking for the more of a vinegar taste. And once again, you can add hot ingredients to it too. You could add cayenne pepper, chili pepper, whatever you want to do at this point to get it any kind of a heat that you like. So what I'm going to do is add this to it, and then I'll start to mix this up. I don't add all the brine at first. I want to see how much I'm going to use. So I might save a little bit off to the side. So what I'm going to do now is actually start mixing this together and incorporating it thoroughly. Okay, so now the mixture is all completely incorporated, and I have to admit, guys, I use my hands. It's much easier using the hands and just kind of getting in there and working it. So it's all completely incorporated, and you can already start to smell it a little bit because it's already starting to give off that sulfur gas. The bacteria is already going to work. It's got the food. It's happy. So it's already starting to smell like my kids don't like that smell. So anyway, so now I'm going to start to fill it into jars, and I like to use this size jars. I don't know if this is a 20-ounce jar, but it's got the large mouth on it, so it's much easier to fill this up. And so just start simply scooping it out. And you know, you want to make sure you get the juices at the bottom and just simply fill the jars. It's just that simple. Not hard at this point. Pack it down. About the hardest thing you're going to have to figure out at this point is how full you want it and how much juice you want it, because what's going to happen over time, you're going to let this sit out for about 7 days while it ferments. Not in the refrigerator. I sit it out in my dining room. And so you're going to let it sit out for about 7 days while it's going to work and doing its thing. And it's going to bubble out. So I'm going to show you the kind of container I put it in so that way it doesn't overflow. Because you will notice a lot of juices come out of this as it's going to work. And what I tend to do is I tend to fill it, and I can see the juice at the bottom, or the brine, and I will tend to fill them all up. I'll usually fill between 6 and 7 of these, and then I'll go back and add the juice at the bottom that's in the bowl. I'll add it so that way I can distribute it equally in all the different jars. So I'll fill these all up, and then what I do is close it up. You've got obviously the mason jar lids, but at the same time you want to tighten it down so it's snug but not locked, because you do want to let some of the air out. The gases have to come out. Because what's going to happen is if you don't and you go to open it later on, it's just going to, you know, it's going to be shooting out and spewing out everywhere. So what I like to do is just put it tight enough that it lets the air out. Sometimes I might even leave it really loose so that it doesn't cause the liquid to bubble up and out. And I used to fill these super, super high. I don't fill them so high anymore because I've learned over time that it ends up coming out. The other thing we want to do is we want to pack it with some of those leaves. So remember I said save those leaves that we had earlier, and we're going to pack these in there. We're going to fold them up and just push it into the top, just like that. Very simple, right? Not difficult at all, just like that. And then you'll close it up and just let it go to work. So what I put them in is a pan like this, and the reason I use a pan like this is because it's thick on the side, so that way if it does fill up, and it will fill up sometimes as much as 1/4 to 1/2 inch in here, I won't have to worry about it going out onto my dining room table. So this works really well. So I just put them in here, load this up with about 6 of them, and then I just go ahead and put this on my dining room table, and I let it sit for 7 days. And then after the 7th day, you can actually start eating it at that point. Now, I prefer it more refrigerated, so of course I put it in a refrigerator. But once it's in a refrigerator, you can eat it. So great thing about this is it's ready to go quickly. So once again, just put it in the other room for about 7 days. Let it ferment, and then put it in the refrigerator, and it's ready to go. So if you guys like this information, let me know it. Give me a thumbs up, like it, and share it, comment. Also, too, let me know what else you're interested in hearing about. I'd love to do more videos based on what you want to know about, what are your health concerns. So thanks again for joining me today, Dr. Nick. God bless. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.